social pariah turned messiah. I am the misfit that doesn't know when to quit. I am the man without a plan. And in case you haven't heard, I always, and I mean always, have the last word. Ladies and gentlemen, and all points in between, welcome back to another episode of The Last Word. So, we're past Mania. We've had 2 pay-per-views since Mania. Well, a pay-per-view and a glorified house show. I didn't really feel like the Greatest Royal Rumble needed its own video. I'm not going to be able to add more than what a lot of other people said. It was a glorified house show. I honestly got bored about 2 hours in and turned it off and had to come back to it at a later date. But let me get my thoughts on the Greatest Royal Rumble before we jump into Backlash. The Raw Tag Team title match I thought was good. It was pointless because nobody expected the Bar to win because the Bar is now on SmackDown. So why would a team on SmackDown win the Raw Tag Team Championship? And we had a similar problem at Backlash with a match, well, actually the first match, so we'll get to that in a moment. But the Rumble itself I enjoyed. Plenty of botches. Bobby Lashley tried to murder Big Cass. I still don't know. Like, I didn't watch a lot of him in TNA, but I've heard and I know he can perform. But as of yet, I haven't seen anything that makes me go, yeah, he's the guy. So, those of you out there that are diehard Lashley fans and diehard Lashley supporters, I'm going to take your word for it for now. But his outing at the Rumble and even last night at Backlash, I'm not seeing anything that says, wow, but that also isn't necessarily his fault. Well, okay. His botches at the Greatest Royal Rumble were his fault, but it was also 80-something degrees in that arena, and he was oiled up like nobody's business, so accidents happen. But Titus World Slide was probably the funniest thing of the night. I will be buying one of those shirts. I am so glad Titus owned it and just ran with it. It was great. Most of the matches were meh. Cena and Triple H, if you were expecting like Cena and Triple H from a decade ago, well, that was a decade ago. I don't know what's wrong with you. For guys of their age, and especially Triple H, he's now in his 50s. I have nothing but respect for Paul Levesque, so I'm not knocking him. But I think the guy knows where he's at. They did a good match. It wasn't anywhere near to the best match either of them have performed. This was a step up from Cena's botch of missing Undertaker's boot from like 1.5 feet away that he did in Mania. So it was an okay match. Kudos to Braun Strowman winning the Rumble. I think that's good for him and a great push. I'm happy the Deleter of Worlds got the championship on Raw, because that adds some life to a stale tag team division right now. So kudos. So yeah, overall it wasn't a horrible show at the Greatest Royal Rumble. I kind of wanted to shy away because the controversy involving Saudi Arabia and their attitude towards women and other parts of the Middle East. I have nothing but respect for Sami Zayn staying home just because of the fact. I don't know if he chose to or if they told him not to go. But he's a Canadian, but his family is of Syrian descent. And Saudi Arabia does not get along with Syria right now. So I think that was smart on both ends. But I have nothing but respect for Sami for not going, because he's doing a lot of great work in Syria, a country that needs some help right now. And Saudi Arabia needs some cultural help. They're growing. They're slowly changing. It's going to take time. So I know there was all the controversy of not having a women's match, not having anything from the women there. And even to the point where they had to issue an apology for advertising Backlash with female wrestlers scantily clad. Which, yeah, okay, they're in their normal women's wrestling attire. Compared to what was deemed acceptable 60 years ago, that's scantily clad. And yeah, okay, some of them are scantily clad. So, we'll just be honest. But, yeah, it's slow progress. I'm not a huge fan of Saudi Arabia as far as their policies and some of their culture. I think it's a beautiful country. I have a problem with the fact that if I went there, I would potentially be killed for my religious beliefs, as would any other Christian or Jew. Potentially. I'm not saying their government's going to officially execute you, but it's known to happen. They are growing, they are progressing. Jeddah was beautiful, so I do look forward to when they go there again. And as much as it kind of was disrespectful, the women all got paid like they performed. So kudos to the WWE. And you know what? No matter how you feel about the culture and the controversy, that 20 million or whatever they got for that show, well, they just paid those female wrestlers. So whether they didn't want women wrestling or women being equal to men or not, well, they just paid those women to be there. So think of it that way. My brother-in-law's best friend is from Saudi Arabia. Omar's an awesome guy, so I don't have an issue with the people. The people are cool. It's the government slowly changing and some of the culture there that's slowly changing. I have one real knock from the whole pay-per-view. Well, two. The main event sucked, but that's a running theme here as of late. It's almost like Roman Reigns isn't a great main event guy, and nobody said that for the last few years at all. But yeah, that main event botch was horrible. But the one thing that really hurt the pay-per-view were all the rich guys, and you could tell they're rich guys because they were dressed like people from the movie Lawrence of Arabia. I don't mean any disrespect by that, so please don't. I don't know how to describe the turban and the whole 9 yards. But they're usually the the children, offspring, or the people with oil money and other money. They weren't into it. Like, they're just there, like, entertain me. They were taking away from it, because typically at WWE shows, your front row people are usually people that are more excited or more into it, or more expressive. So seeing a bunch of rich guys just there to be there, kind of, and again, I'm not hating on being rich, because, you know what, if I had the opportunity to be in their same situation, as far as, like, being in, money, I'm not going to say no. I might, just because I'm a little bit different culturally, maybe not take on some of the mannerisms, but to be fair, if I lived there, I would adjust to their culture out of respect. I'm not going to come there as white dude and tell, again, I'm saying white dude. I don't do identity politics. I don't do the whole, like, shame thing. So I wouldn't go there as white dude, black dude, American Western culture dude, and be like, well, everything you do is wrong. I don't agree with a lot of their culture, but let's just at least respect and find common ground. And that common ground is a love for wrestling. So again, a lot of controversy. I think some of it's overblown, and a lot of people were like, well, the women. I'm like, not for nothing. How many of these fans and these smarks and marks that are screaming about the women not being allowed to compete, how many of you are honestly watching wrestling solely for the females or primarily for the female wrestling? Yeah, none of you, so stop it. I have respect for the women's division. It is a far cry better than what we had in the Attitude Era when I was really heavily into it as a teenager, and what we had in all through the early 2000s. So the women's division's fantastic. In fact, last night we had a really good women's match. Although I think some people have some iffy some people found it iffy, and I can respect their opinion, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. But just to wrap up the house, okay, no matter what, I'm going to call the glorified house show, because that's what it was. Kudos to Braun. I think that's a good move that allows them to bill him as after losing the Elimination Chamber and all that. This really put Braun in as the guy. I don't know if it's officially the guy yet, because they still keep shoving Roman down our throats. Roman Lesnar sucked again. They botched the finish, but I mean, it happens. Again, it was 86 degrees in that arena. And it was supposed to be that Brock fell out first and his feet hit the ground first to kind of set up, well, there's no real winner. But obviously Roman's feet hit first because Brock's feet got hung up on the ring apron. So yeah, and the match wasn't good either. But so it was an okay show. It should have just been a house show. I don't think it needed the international spectacle that they gave it. But if you're going to hand me $20 million for a house show, I'll throw it on the network and all that too, just to make you happy. Just as long as the money comes, I'll do what you want. And that's what the WWE's approach was here. So there's my 2 cents on the house show. The greatest Royal Rumble. It obviously, as I keep calling it a house show, it was a glorified house show. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was far cry from any hitting a top 50 or even top 100 pay-per-views of all time. The Royal Rumble match itself was the best part of the show. Daniel Bryan was amazing. Big Cass was amazing. Bobby Lashley tried to kill people. Braun got to be Braun, so that match was worth watching. So if you haven't watched that, go watch the Rumble. And I just honestly would say skip the rest because there's nothing groundbreaking. But yeah, so that's kind of why I didn't want to do a whole video on it, because we're, 10 minutes in and I've already talked about the freaking greatest Royal Rumble? I'm going to keep this short if I can. So we had the greatest Royal Rumble, and then I think these pay-per-views are too damn close to each other. Because I was not expecting a week later to have Backlash. It caught me by surprise last night. And Backlash overall, it wasn't a horrible pay-per-view. It had some moments, obviously, that kind of made me question. And again, the one match I caught in the pre-show was Bayley versus Ruby Riott. I like Ruby Riott. I like that she's different. I like that Nia's different. It's not the stereotypical big bust, blonde-haired, blue eyes. So it's cool seeing that in there. I mean, Bayley's not either, so they had a good match. It really only existed to further the tension of this never-ending or never-beginning feud between Bayley and Sasha. And so Ruby Riott won. It was an okay match. Nothing spectacular, but it wasn't bad. And then we went into the actual show. Now, this one was weird, because I hated the fact that this was a match because we all knew who was going to win. Because, again, as I said with the greatest Royal Rumble, we knew who was winning the Raw Tag Team title match because they're the team that's on Raw, and it's the Raw Tag Team titles. That's the one problem with the dual-branded stuff, is when you have guys cross-promotion and you've already done your superstar shakeup, we know who's winning. I think, honestly, everything would have been better if they waited till after Backlash to do the shakeup. But what do I know? They had their reasons for doing it. They had to kind of bring Jeff back and get Jeff away from Matt and Bray because they didn't want Jeff doing the Woken universe, which is fine. I think he would have been fine in there, but they can do their own thing with Jeff because they still have Hardy Boys merchandise to sell. But, of course, the match I'm talking about was for the IC title. It was The Miz and Seth Rollins. And again, I went into this pissed because I'm like, this is a waste of time. We know Seth was going to win. And guess what? Seth won. But this was a freaking good match. Like, they just beat the snot out of each other. Again, it was a really good match for what it was worth. I just went into it knowing it was going to be Seth. There was no Miz is going to win and they're going to have both titles on SmackDown, or somehow the U.S. title will be back on Raw. I mean, they moved the titles a year ago. They weren't going to move them again that quick. Now, if they did things like that where all of a sudden the Universal title, because I'm sorry, I know they keep billing that as the bigger title. It's not, because the actual world title gets defended more than 3 times a year. So I wouldn't mind those titles switching every so often. It would keep things interesting. And it would make the fight between the two shows interesting, because it can be, hey, we want this title here. You better win for us. And then you can have Raw going, yo, we want this title back. Bring this title home. And you can do things with it. Creative storytelling. Having guys that otherwise wouldn't fight because they're on the different shows suddenly have a very short feud. Or even just make the titles owned by a particular show and the winner goes to that show. I'd like, shake things up uniquely. But again, this was a good match. I can't hate it. I just knew damn well Seth was going to win. Now, I'm not against Seth. I kind of never let go of the fact that he ruined Balor's first. And again, it was an accident, so, I can't be mad. But he ruined the first Universal title run with the injury to Balor. So, and again, it happens. Seth's talented. I still have a hard time going, dude, you screwed up a really nice non-Roman Reigns being pushed moment. But it was a good match. I recommend watching that. If you haven't watched Backlash yet, it's on the network, obviously, so you can watch replays whenever. Really good match. Second match, we had Nia versus Alexa. And this one it was no real controversy, but it's controversial to the fans, and I'll get to the end of the match here in a second. Alexa committing to the Nia being the bully gimmick is phenomenal. They had a great package before the match where Alexa's, I've been a victim of being bullied. Like, the narcissistic mean girl thing was great. I know people hate this build, but I'm of the crowd that loves it because Alexa is the mean girl. Like, that's her character, so this is perfect for her. But this match was really good. I can't complain at all. Now, again, this wasn't, I'm going to say, it wasn't as good as, even I think Charlotte and Carmella might have been a slightly better match-ish. That one had weird pacing at times, but, okay, so this wasn't as good as, say, Asuka and Charlotte. I don't think any women's match this year is going to top that. And meanwhile, Asuka's nowhere to be found on his pay-per-view and nowhere in the title picture, so way to book hot talent, WWE. I hope you know what you're doing, because I don't have any faith in you right now. But this match came down to the end where Nia went to hit a Twisted Bliss. Or not Nia. Nia hit a Twisted Bliss. Holy crap. That would be amazing. Sorry, Alexa went to hit a Twisted Bliss. Nia caught her and then did like a running Samoan drop. And it was awesome. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that finisher. But when you do a running, forceful jump back to really sell the impact of it, in the same way Braun takes just a ordinary move like a running power slam and just does it with the force and impact to really sell it. Nia, it was great, especially countering a finisher and a off-the-rope finisher into your own finisher. I still think Nia would benefit from a powerbomb style finisher, but I understand you want to be safe, and she can do the Samoan drop relatively well. But this match was a lot of fun. Again, first two matches on the show were great. I don't know if... Well, okay, there was one awful match, and we all know what match that was. So I can't wait to get to it, but I don't want to rush to it. But after the match, Nia gave an anti-bullying Be a Star promo, which felt really ham-fisted and kind of shoehorned in. I didn't really have a problem with it. A lot of fans did, and I had gotten a lot of conversations this morning on social media with fans, especially on a couple groups I'm in on Facebook. And there was very split here. It was corny, but it was there for the kids. Nia kind of went up there and talked about how, this is for everybody that's been picked on for being different, blah, blah, blah. And then I get people that are like, it's usually the fat people that are bullies. And I'm just like, stop being an asshole. As someone who was ritualistically bullied as a kid, I like that they're doing this anti-bullying thing. But it was forced, okay? It was a after-school special moment. It was corny, but it was really to the kids, which is fine. I'd rather Nia be a monster heel, but if they're going to have Nia be kind of Bayley but believable, if that makes sense, I'm fine with that too. I don't mind Nia. We don't need another, we have Alexa. We have, really Alexa on Raw. She's the primary heel. But I mean, the women's division on Raw right now, you have Sasha and Bayley in their own little universe doing their feud that I'm already tired of, and it hasn't even started yet. Pull the trigger on that damn feud already. Let's get it over with, because it's going to be shoved down our throats when it finally kicks off, and I'm already tired of it because you keep teasing it. But again, a year ago, if you watch my older videos, and I recommend check out the channel, shameless plug, I talked about kind of at the moment when I forgot which pay-per-view it was, where they kind of just killed Bayley for me, like just in general. And they made her idiot country bumpkin and the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, I still can't, I'm not buying her character as being believable. I like the performer, I like the character. It's just, I'm not buying into it as relevant in the women's division. So if the women's division has a mid-card right now, I feel like Sasha and Bayley's the mid-card. Because I also don't understand the mass appeal of Sasha Banks. I don't think she's all that great on the mic. I think her gimmick is just one note. So, but again, a lot of the times it's how they're booked. And a lot of it was everybody was booked to look bad compared to Charlotte. So, we'll see. But again, Nia did her promo. It was corny, but it was really good for the kids, so I can go with that. What sold it the most was Alexa crying like she was the victim at the end. I enjoyed it, but if you didn't like it and found it corny and distracting, that's fine. I respect that opinion. If you're going to play it off like this, is somehow cliche when, hey, for the first time in like a couple years, a non-big busted blonde white woman is champion. Yeah, we had Sasha Banks champion for all of a day. And Bailey, I think, for all of a day. But we have someone different as champion. So cool. So don't turn around and be like, well, this is so cliche, because they haven't done something like this. Not in a long time. And so you know what? I'm okay with what they're doing. If they keep ham-fisting the bully thing and the be a star thing into it like further, then yeah, it's going to become a problem because it's going to become a joke. But the Nia as the narcissistic bully crying victim was great because that fits her character. Not Alexa, sorry. Nia kind of... And they built Nia up as being the one that fell out of place because she's a bigger woman. They did a really good job backstage storytelling and even in ring with the way Alexa tried to manipulate Nia for a while. So I thought this was a good payoff and really helped solidify Nia as a champion. Now, if I had to play Fantasy Booker for a moment, I would have used Nia as a monster heel and used Nia as the way to launch Asuka. You could even had Asuka's streak broken by Nia, even though they fought a bunch of times in NXT and Asuka won. But you could have had Asuka be the one to establish herself, being the one to finally take down Nia. But that's not how they did things. So for how they did it, I don't think it's that bad. I think people are overreacting to the promo at the end and making a bigger deal than they should. It was, I thought, a good job. And then... an okay match. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't call this a great match. We had the U.S. title match, which I even forgot was a thing right now. Like, this was even a feud. You had Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. The build-up to this was kind of cool. You had them focusing on the fact that both Randy Orton and Jeff are Grand Slam champions. I don't mind Jeff's a fresh face, so I'm just tired of Randy Orton, if I'm going to be honest. He's not untalented. There's nothing really wrong with him. I'm just tired of him. I find him boring, like charisma-wise, but when he's kind of in a sociopathic character, he's a little more enjoyable because he's just kind of, loose cannon. The match was okay. It was a bit too slow-paced at times. It really, honestly, my flaw with this match was this just should have been this felt like a SmackDown Live match. This really nothing unique was done here. They didn't leave everything in the ring. This just felt like a routine SmackDown Live match. And a nice little twist here that I did enjoy was Jeff managed to hit the twist of fate out of nowhere, the play on the RKO out of nowhere, which is getting old. I think my biggest thing with Randy is how overprotected the RKO is in comparison to other bigger, more muscular and again, not that Randy's not muscular, he's jacked, so I can't complain, but the move's overprotected. I think it's more overprotected than the stunner was, but hey, I'm sure one of you can go, no, some other move's overprotected. I mean, now at least people are kicking out of the spare and Superman punch, finally. But Jeff, it was a nice match. It wasn't great. It wasn't like a match of the night candidate or anything, but it was fun. It just felt like it either could have been in the pre-show, which I think is beneath the two guys of this caliber, or it could have been on SmackDown Live. This could have been a go-home match then the night versus in the pay-per-view, if I'm just going to be honest. Now, my favorite segment of the night came up next. Everything about this was hilarious. And of course, I'm talking about Elias coming out. Elias came out and he basically was going to do his, he did his Walk with Elias thing and was going to play. The crowd kept booing, so Elias fed into it and was doing the, fine, I'm not going to play for you. The crowd cheered. So Elias was going back and forth as if he was going to sit and play. They booed. If he started walking away, they cheered. So it was basically like he kept taunting the crowd. And then all of a sudden, the New Day's music hit right before Elias was going to play. And the New Day comes out with Francesca, a drum kit, and another instrument. I forgot what Kofi had. But Big E looked like he was carrying like a kid's drum kit, just because it was small, big guy. But they come out and they actually really push and pop Elias before they start kind of jabbing at him and making fun of him. And Elias, of course, is, I don't want you guys playing with me. I don't want you to walk with me. Get out of here. And then he goes, all right, you do your thing. And you hear, ladies and gentlemen, Elias. And then all of a sudden, Aiden English, the Rusev Day music hits. Aiden English comes out and starts singing, like talking and praising Elias. And Aiden English has chops. I know people kind of found the singing thing annoying, but the dude could sing, at least compared to Elias. So they turn it into a Rusev Day thing. Rusev comes out. Elias then snaps on everybody and tries to tell them all, it's my moment. I'm going to perform. So they do the, ladies and gentlemen, Elias. And then all of a sudden, No Way Jose's music hits. And I love No Way Jose. I don't think for a minute he's going to be anything big on the main roster because of his type of gimmick. It's a dancing gimmick. But he comes out and he has Titus Titus Worldwide with him. And they come out and dance and do their thing. And then Elias finally tells everybody off again. And it's just this build-up. And they do the ladies and gentlemen Elias. Before he can play, Bobby Roode shows up behind him, hits him with the glorious DDT, and leaves. So, I thought this whole thing, while it was a time waster, was probably my favorite segment of the night. It was a nice break from in-ring action to let the crowd kind of calm down and refresh. It was fun. Everybody looked like they were having a blast. Elias is fantastic as a heel and really is that mid-card heel that can put guys over. I feel like when it's all said and done, and I'm not saying they're on the same talent level, he could have a Mr. Perfect style career being that mid-card heel. I don't ever see Elias being a world champ, although I think he could do it if given the right push. Likewise, Mr. Perfect should have been a world champ at some point. But Elias is somebody who they should put the IC title on, or he's a great transitional guy for when they want to push the current IC champ back up to the top card and bring up someone new. Elias can have a fantastic career doing that. The whole segment was fantastic. I was laughing the entire time, enjoying myself. And I guess I didn't realize Bobby Roode and Elias because I didn't catch Raw last week, or at least not. It was raid night with the guild, so I was doing other things while watching Raw. But so Elias and Bobby are an ongoing feud. That should be good because I think that can help get Bobby over with the Raw crowd. Bobby needs to be a heel because a poor man's Ric Flair thing really isn't doing it right now. He looks a little lost as a face, so I think if they let him go heel, it would be a lot better for him. He was a heel in NXT and it was amazing. Now, fourth match. Sorry you're going to hate me for this. It was Daniel Bryan and Big Cass, and this match didn't do anything for me. I'm sorry. I know it's Daniel Bryan. I love his in-ring work. Cass does pretty well in the ring. Just this match didn't do anything. It wasn't bad, but it was just average. Daniel Bryan wound up winning, and Cass, I think, ended up beating him down after the match. It was okay. I honestly this was kind of I use this phrase all the time. And I don't know if this one would be, because there's really two of these that qualify, and the other one's also my favorite guy on Raw right now, and it was kind of meh. This could have been a piss break match. It wasn't bad. If you stuck around, you would have enjoyed it. There wasn't anything bad. It was just, eh. I think if this didn't feel as a forced feud as it was, the whole package for it was Big Cass. Well, I returned from injury the same day as Daniel Bryan. I'm sorry, are you 8? What the hell kind of... Now, I've seen worse things for a feud to start over, so... But these two, if they keep going, I think could have some really good matches. This, again, wasn't bad. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't see the best out of either. It was okay. Now, it might be a match I need to go back and rewatch down the road and might have a different reaction to it. And you may have loved it. If you did, cool. Just meh. And then we had this was a decent match. And again, this really established, this was Charlotte Flair challenging Carmella for the SmackDown Women's title. Carmella's full-on embracing Girl Enzo. which is what she was in NXT. So, awesome. Because it's less irritating when there's not Enzo on the roster. Because she was doing the I'm the Princess of SmackDown Live, talking smack and all that stuff. Again, my notes here is so Asuka's buried now. Like, what happened here? And I get it. You need your rematch, and this rematch would have happened at the last pay-per-view if it wasn't in Saudi Arabia. So, but I digress. I've already talked about that. My one complaint was Charlotte's outfit was awful looking. It looked like green vomit. So I just meh, like the outfit. The match was good. It was at times their match was fun. Like again, this wasn't as good. I don't think necessarily as good as Nia and Asuka. Damn, I can't wait for that one. Nia and Alexa at times. Because Charlotte being a submission user and Carmella apparently too, because Carmella hit this, I forgot what they called it, code of silence. Because she was getting no push for the longest time, so now I'm like seeing her actually being booked well. I like the code of silence as a submission hold. Both women locked it, did a lot of submissions, and it was a slow paced match, which worked for the two of them. And it made Carmella look aggressive. Like, she was doing a lot of screaming, which I think people were hating on today, but you know what? It works for her. She's supposed to be the princess from Staten Island. If you've been in that part of the country, because I'm not far from New York, they are like that. It's kind of like Jersey Shore. It's not an inaccurate portrayal of Jersey Shore. But Carmella wins after, again, this was an okay match. Nothing bad. I can't complain, really. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Carmella ended up winning because Charlotte went to do her moonsault and missed, and they're basically selling a knee injury. And because Charlotte came down, and as she came down, she put her knee out afterwards to make it look like she busted up her knee. And she may have actually came down on the knee, for all I know. I do know that the WWE, on their website today, were reporting that Alexa Bliss had a shoulder injury. I don't know if it's kayfabe or not. I haven't got a chance to look into that, but I do have some other news that I'll get to when I get to this main event. Because, damn. But they did it where Carmella won clean because Charlotte hurt her knee. And, Carmella got the pin. But what really made this match fun, and despite it not being the most technical prowess, most action-packed match, was both women did a Ric Flair walk. And it was great because Charlotte did hers because it's daddy. And Carmella did hers, like, mocking. And then Charlotte just walked up and slapped the spit out of Carmella's mouth. I thought that was great, because it's just like classic Ric Flair. And I was like, okay, this is nice. I like these two feuding. I don't mind if they do another match or two. At some point, they got to get Charlotte and Ronda locked in together. So Charlotte's got to show up on Raw at some point. I don't know how they're going to do that. Because I thought they were going to do that prior to not prior, but during the brand split that they did earlier than they should have. But good match. I like that Carmella's now being booked. They didn't make Asuka look weak, and they didn't make because if Charlotte came in and just beat the snot out of Carmella and dominated, but Carmella got the beat her up and got the win. And again, Charlotte was jumped, so it's a little different. But if Carmella lost immediately, it would have made Asuka look weaker, which the worst thing they can do right now is make Asuka look weak, because she is the most prominent woman on the roster aside from Ronda Rousey, and Ronda right now is namely her name, but she does have a ton of talent. As I said, I didn't initially like the WrestleMania match, but when I had to reflect back and watch it again, it was fantastic for what it was, and what I didn't like wasn't Ronda, so I think Ronda is going to be great. I personally rather have had Asuka maintain her undefeated streak and then lose it to Ronda. Although that's cliche, so I'm kind of glad they didn't do it, but hey. So, good match there. Oh. I'm going to come back to this match. The next match was AJ Styles and Shinsuke, but there's more to talk about there, so I'm going to skip ahead. The 7th match and second to last match, and I'll go back to the AJ and Shinsuke in a second, was my boy Braun and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The announcers wouldn't shut up about Sami's vertigo, Like, they had to keep mentioning it as the reason why Sammy wasn't in Saudi Arabia. Your website put out a press release saying they respect the cultural views of different countries and their performers. You acknowledged that there was a cultural issue while he wasn't there. Don't insult the fans. Like, it was obnoxious. They, for like 5 minutes straight, they wouldn't, or 3 minutes straight, they wouldn't shut up about it. I'm just like, guys, we know what was going on. Shut up. You're taking us out of the match. And this match was stupid, if I'm going to be honest. And I hate saying that because I love Braun. Braun's my favorite guy. Braun's number 1. Shinsuke's number 2 for me in the WWE. And AJ's number 3. And I do like both Owens and Zayn. They're great workers. This match didn't do anything to showcase their talent. Lashley was kind of just there. This match really existed to set dissension between Zayn and Owens. At some point, Zayn wound up outside the ring after, I think, like, slapping Owens because Zayn was trying to get the hell away from Braun. And they got into a tussle, and then eventually Braun just hits a running power slam on Owens. They win. Lashley, I mean, he was in and out a little bit, but he didn't do a lot. It feels like you just stuck Lashley and Braun together because you needed something for them to do. Don't do that. They're both really talented. If you want to kind of build Lashley up as the guy, because the rumor was that Lashley was going to take the belt off Lesnar at SummerSlam. I'm not buying that rumor. I don't think Lashley's over enough, or honestly hasn't looked good enough since coming back to warrant that, but that's a good 4 or 5 months away. Put Lashley in a program with Rollins. Put Braun in the main event picture. Now, I know, like, the other thing I was reading was originally it was supposed to be Braun and Lashley at Mania to take the Raw Tag titles. And then something happened where Lashley couldn't do it, so they did the thing with Braun and Nicholas, which I think is fine because I think that the leaders of Worlds should really have a run for a while as tag team champs. But I honestly don't find it believable that Matt and Bray would beat up Braun and Lashley, like, in a long-term feud. I think a few matches, yes, but I don't buy them winning the feud overall. And the rumor was, too, that they eventually Lashley was going to go heel and turn on Braun. Don't go that route. Like, just, I think they need to drop the teaming them up together thing already. But you might like it. If you do, cool. Braun needs to kind of be doing his own thing. He's over. Even if you have tonight on Raw, Lashley comes out and just like, hey, I don't like being second banana, and they get into a feud. Cool. Allows Braun to build himself up. It allows Lashley to build himself up. And I think the two can do pretty well. I'd rather not. I'd rather Lashley go after the IC title. I'd rather Braun be the one to actually take the world title, universal title, whatever you want to call it, from Brock. But that was my thing. I didn't hate the match. I honestly just watched it and I was like, this is stupid. Which says a lot because I honestly enjoyed the Nicholas moment in the other match in WrestleMania. So I just didn't feel like this match served to further any of the four competitors' career. It just felt like a filler match between the SmackDown title, the World title, and the main event. This was a piss break match, but it was a fun match. Maybe there'll be some storyline development tonight on Raw. But again, I had to do that one first because I honestly I don't. This could have been a pre-show match, as dumb as that sounds, because none of these four competitors should ever be in a pre-show match. But it served no purpose. Now, back to Dick Kick City, or Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles. They had a phenomenal match in Saudi Arabia. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. And they had the double count out there. And so this was a no DQ match. I'm going to swear, so I apologize, but I have to say it because it just warrants it. This was a fucking phenomenal match. And I'm not using that lightly. These two guys literally left everything in the ring, including themselves. They beat the hell out of each other. I want more of this. This feud can keep going. It's great. There was a freaking moment where Shinsuke was... AJ had a chair nearby. Shinsuke was getting ready to run in and do the Kinshasa. And AJ threw the chair at Shinsuke's knee. It bounced off Shinsuke. Yeah. She sells seashells by the seashore. Wow. But So I pumped because this was just so much fun. So he throws the AJ throws the chair at Shinsuke's knee. The chair bounces off the knee and flicks back and catches AJ in the side of the face. AJ's out of it. He's got a big old gash and bleeding, and they're still beating the hell out of each other. I love this. And this match had I get why the crowd there hated the finish, because this match was so damn good you wanted a winner. But this match ended where they both kicked each other in the nuts, fell down, and the ref counted 10. Now, I love this finish from the standpoint it's the most realistic finish I could think of. Because if two dudes fought in real life and just ran up and kicked each other as hard as they could in the nuts, they're not getting up for a couple of minutes. That's what this felt like. But this was a no DQ match. Since when the hell does a 10 count matter in a no DQ match? Like, I know you're setting up a last man standing, as it was AJ winning and then two double finishes here. I mean, you could do a last man standing or an Iron Man match between these two. I would prefer the last man standing, especially if we're going to have constant punches and kicks to the dick. Because Shinsuke hit a low blow, AJ finally had enough and hit a low blow. And they went to town, and this was such a fun, great match. And the crowd was pissed, which is why I think Strowman and all them was just kind of a tosser or throwaway match. Because it was just the crowd was upset with the finish. And then, of course, we had the match we're going to get to next where, and I need to calm down. Let's just say I feel bad for Samoa Joe. But, so, obviously we're setting up some final match between Shinsuke and AJ. I think it's going to be a last man standing based on the fact they both were counted down. I would have loved that this just kept going and then eventually one of them got up, or they both struggled to get to their feet and they both went for one last move, hit each other down again, and then one got up and the other didn't by the 10 count. But you turned around and added arbitrary rules to a no DQ match when there's supposed to be no other way to win except pinfall or submission. So I understand why the crowd was mad. But I enjoyed it, and I love the fact that they both were down from getting kicked in the dick. Because all I could think of is Dragon Ball Z Abridged, with Vegeta getting kicked in the dick repeatedly. In fact, I was chanting that line during the match. I loved it. Just loved it for what it was. I know the finish was dumb, but it's the WWE, and they're king of dumb, weird finishes right now. And speaking of just dumb matches, I mean, I knocked kind of Braun and Lashley for just kind of being a pointless match. It was fun, and it was great to see Braun look strong and dominant. But, dear God, Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns was such utter garbage. My notes I have typed out from last night. Damn it, WWE, could you put out good product? Holy crap. Now, just to set the tone here, the crowd the crowd was leaving. This was reported on Bleacher Report. I can confirm the report is there because I read the article. And it started happening during the end of the Strowman-Lashley match. I think people, Strowman, Lashley, Owens, and Zayn match, I think people knew the end of the night was going to be a stinker. People left during the main event. WWE, can you not figure out what's wrong here and what the common denominator is here when people are booing, cheering a frickin' beach ball, and leaving during the main event? The guy you are forcing on everyone, the guy whose career you're ruining in the process, is being rejected. The WWE Universe has spoken. And again, I don't like Roman Reigns, the character. I like Mike Anolowi, the performer. I probably pronounced the last name wrong. I apologize. I think Roman could work. Just, he's not as babyface John Cena Jr., not as main event guy. But in this match, we had the usual, and I wish people would stop because it's getting old. Unless you're in Chicago, you shouldn't be doing this. We got the CM Punk chant. Because the crowd just gave up on this match 2 minutes in. Because it was predictable, and I'll get to the match in a second. It was just so much hilarity, similar to the WrestleMania match, where the crowd was chanting, boring, this is awful, and to the point where Brock got so pissed he got in Vince McMahon's face after the match. But we had CM Punk chants. We had crowd breakout and chants of beat the traffic as they were leaving. That's not how you book a main event. And here's why the crowd was pissed. Both guys come out, and again, it's Samoa Joe. The dude is an amazing wrestler. He'd be number 4 for me in the WWE. I'm not a fan of the character, but I respect the performer. And I love the fact that he's just blunt. Like, this whole feud at Roman really felt like it was just there to help to get Roman over, because that's what this match was at the end. But Samoa Joe just was the voice of the crowd, which was great. And I have not seen, even in TNA, and I'm sure they're there because everybody's going to have an off night, I have not seen a bad Samoa Joe match. Even his early career in TNA when he was a face, I thought he was great and was looking forward to him eventually going to WWE. In NXT, I thought he was great. Even his matches with Shinsuke were great. As Samoa Joe was just a tenacious heel. But this match started where Samoa Joe attacked Roman from behind. I think slammed Roman through the announce table, a Spanish announce table. They had to clarify it was the Spanish announce table a couple times. And so this is basically Samoa Joe beating the snot out of Roman, shouting at Roman, Roman getting beat, Roman kicking out, Roman getting beat, Roman getting beat. Out one move, Roman gets a move off and pins and gets the win. It was the most cliche, and again, this is proper use of cliche, because they've done this same bullshit formula, pardon my French, before, but it was just, oh, Roman's getting beat up, oh, Samoan Jesus kicks out, Samoan Jesus rallies, does a move and wins. The match sucked. How do you have a bad match with Samoa Joe? And I promised in my Mania video I wasn't going to try to be as much of a smark. And I'm not, which is why I'm okay with, as dumb as it was, okay with the be a star thing, as long as they don't go overboard with it. I'm okay with the throwaway match with Braun, Lashley, Owens, and Zayn because it was fun. It was pointless, but it was fun. There was nothing fun about this. This sucked. Not as bad as the WrestleMania match, but it just sucked. Could we move past the Roman Reigns experiment? Or how about we take the experiment of just turning Roman on the establishment and making him a heel? Because if Roman came out talking trash like Samoa Joe, I think it would be a little interesting. Again, he doesn't have the charisma to do it. At least he hasn't demonstrated. And again, I can't hold everything on Mike, the performer, because he's doing what he's told. But he doesn't have this move pool. I mean, what's he do? A suplex, a spear, and a punch. And granted, that's a Lesnar match right now. It's basically spinebuster, suplex, and F5. Which is why I'm not a huge Lesnar fan. But Lesnar, Hoss guys can get away with, and Lesnar's too muscular to be a true Hoss. Somebody like Braun Strowman would be a Hoss. But guys like that, even Samoa Joe technically, but Samoa Joe's got agility out the butt, so to pulls things out of nowhere. But I lost my train of thought. You get big guys that can get away with big power moves because that's who they are. Not Roman. We need more out of him, like at least charisma. Then just everything about this match. I'm just watching it going, okay, so Samoa Joe drags him into the ring from the outside with the locked in the coquina clutch. Roman's going to kick out of that. Oh, Roman kicked out of that. And Samoa Joe goes to do a muscle buster, and Roman reverses that, and Roman won. Like, everything about it was so textbook, cliched garbage. A blind person listening to the match could figure out the formula that you've tried a million times with Roman. And you did it again. And once again, it's not going to get Roman over. Stop. And again, there was no point in Samoa Joe winning, and to be honest, because he's not on the same program. What this does with him losing is it keeps him out of interfering with Shinsuke and AJ for at least another pay-per-view. Because they need to have that blow-off match. There needs to be... Which is weird, because they've had 3 matches. One, AJ won, tie. So if Shinsuke wins, does AJ get one more match? That's where I'm a little confused. I'm okay with that. Because you can have the next match being Iron Man. And then or like a last man standing and then have an Iron Man or a submission match, something. And I think it benefits more for Shinsuke to walk away with the belt. But I don't know if Samoa Joe is going to be in the title picture, if they're going to have Shinsuke go back to being a face, which I hope they don't because he's fantastic as a heel right now. But I wanted Samoa Joe to win. Let me just be clear, because I like Samoa Joe. Everybody likes Samoa Joe. Even if you don't like the guy, you got to like and respect him as a performer. It would have done more for him in the long run winning, but since they're not on the same show, I don't think it hurts him either, because they're not going to be interacting anymore. But you keep building Samoa Joe up as this big guy, but then you Bray Wyatting Samoa Joe to everybody. Are you going to put Samoa Joe in the Woken universe to revitalize him? Because he's better as a just crap-talking, tenacious villain. Bray's got the charisma and the personality to do anything. So he can change things up, but don't bury your talent. Especially to put over talent that people don't like. But yeah, this match was so textbook that it sucked. That's the only way I can describe it. But that was your two shows. We had, again, a glorified house show that had some good moments and some meh. In a country with some controversial views in politics. And then we had Backlash, which overall I enjoyed. There wasn't a single match other than the main event, which is the problem in the last couple pay-per-views. Actually, last three, Mania, Greatest Royal Rumble, and Backlash. Because I would say even Elimination Chamber, but no, despite Roman winning, that match was fantastic because Braun looked like freaking a monster among men. Like, he looked good. But other than the crappy main event and a couple matches that were more throwaway matches, I like the co-branded deal. I think instead of... Again, this is weird because they were trying to keep it to a 3-hour show. And you didn't need them, but it would have been interesting if you're able to work in at least one of the tag team titles instead of Lashley, Strowman, and, Zayn and Owens. But the match with Strowman and Lashley really was there just to put further tension between Owens and Zayn, because eventually they're going to split that up so they can do something with each guy, because it's obvious they're not going to put the tag team belts on them. Strowman and Lashley feel forced as can be, so that's why that match was kind of meh. Overall, I'd give the pay-per-view a C+ to a B-. Yeah, I'll give it a B-. Yeah, I think that's fair. The first match was great, phenomenal wrestling, but we knew who was winning between Miz and Rollins because of the fact they're on different brands. I think what would have pushed this up higher and made things a little more unique or not so damn predictable was if the brand draft deal was tonight and not like a month ago. So yeah, couple okay pay-per-views. One that just really was a house show, as I've said. I'm going to stop saying that now, because I really don't know how else to describe it. It was average. And then we had a above average but not fantastic pay-per-view last night. Raw should be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with Roman now other than give us one more god-awful match with Brock Lesnar. At this point, I'd rather Roman win just so we stop having to suffer through these, but I also don't want to suffer through another Roman title run. Seth, I don't know what they're going to do with him next. Like I said, I think Seth and Lashley would be interesting. Now on SmackDown, I want to see who Jeff Hardy is going to be feuding with next. Because you have Finn Balor, you have Samoa Joe, you have a bunch of guys who would work good with the runner-up, the mid-card belt. At least until AJ and Shinsuke are done. And of course, AJ and Shinsuke aren't done, so SmackDown will be great this week. So again, above average pay-per-view, not great, not bad. Above average. It wasn't meh. It's just a couple matches really had no meaning because we knew who was going to win. And that's been a problem lately, is the storytelling, it's writing, a lack of storytelling at times. It's way too predictable. So I enjoyed the show. I mean, there's no reason you can't enjoy the show for what it was. The main event was garbage. I recommend watching it just so you could hear the crowd chant "Beat the Crowd." Or "Beat the Traffic," rather, because that was hilarious. But, again, I will be back with my next episode of the Great Moments and Bad Gimmicks. On the channel, I already have the Toxic Turtles. I will be doing the Macho Warrior Rick Hogan next. And even though it's not a bad gimmick, I just love the concept of I want to do well done at some point. But again, check the channel. I've been posting Twitch streams, and again, I stream on Twitch at obviously twitch.tv/chocobo chokeslam. I've been doing what's called the weeaboo trash stream. Weeaboo is technically a derogatory term for people obsessed with Japanese culture, and it's derogatory when used by the Japanese to call a non-Japanese person. Stateside here, we kind of just took the word and just jokingly call anybody who's into anime and all that kind of stuff. We kind of tease each other and jokingly call that. So I've been taking anime or just Asian-themed games and playing those and having fun with those on my stream. I'm going to do other things, obviously, because I'm going to get bored of those at some point. I have Let's Plays I started doing on here. I will have Part 3 of Friday the 13th up soon. Part 3 up in the next day or two. But yeah, I got a lot more content out. So, and I got another show I'm working on. I just got to figure out how I want to go about it. I'm not going to spoil that yet, but the channel's growing. As I promised, I was expanding content. Obviously, I'm not giving up or dropping the wrestling stuff because that was what I did this channel for in the first place. And I want to thank all of you that stuck with me through the first year here as we're on the second year of Chocobo Chokeslam with The Last Word and my other shows here. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next pay-per-view review. And then if anything major happens storyline-wise, I will chime in with my 2 cents. And as always, just in case you haven't heard, I always, and I mean always, have the last word. Peace out, everybody.